Going live in 3, 2.
We're live. I think we're live. People say hi in the chat if we're live because the YouTube go live stuff is bollocks. I'm not going to lie. It's so needlessly complicated.
Absolutely.
There's lots of people in chat already because I actually scheduled this one. What's up, Arnold? There we go. Arnold was the first person to say hi. He gets a shout out, but then so does Andrew Irish Bull, the Tim Ball of Yale Computing, and there's lots and lots of people now. Excellent. I'm not going to sit here and just start reading out names. I'm going to put sugar in my coffee because I'm a monster.
Excellent. Do you want to double check? You can go right.
I can go right. I can go right. I can go right. I tell you what I'm going to do.
I meant you can shimmy in the frame. But don't worry.
Oh, I can go a little bit right. I've probably just ruined everything. Hang on a minute.
And descend.
Descend. You'll be... Oh, no. I think if you raise the chair slightly, it'll creak less. Like, just by a couple of inches.
It just went when I sat on it. I didn't actually lower it.
Okay.
It just went descend.
Do you want to swap stools? Because I think my one is slightly less broken. Let's swap stools because mine's less broken.
That is very broken, isn't it? It is displeased with
mine is
all
less
of the
broken,
arrangements.
And I know that everyone loves the squeaky chair.
I will have to squat like this for an hour.
We're swapping.
I will have thighs of steel. Coffee. I will.
This is what you guys came for. Remember. There we go. Try that one. That's fine.
I have been enhanced with LEDs.
With bad RGB, with old analog RGB. Oh yeah, there it is. Yeah, I can sit on. Yeah, I was just like, where's the thing? There we go.
I will perch tentatively. Be prepared for.
Right, there's
something.
your coffee.
Oh, okay.
Okay, here's my coffee.
Indeed.
Right, and Devil July pays $2 to say hi, coffee. Thank you very much for the super chat, my dude. How you doing? Right.
For some reason, gives $2 to this show opening.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
All right, didn't get the stools then. There's a lot of stuff that I haven't done this week, and Caradog is very disappointed with me.
Yes, I have been in this shop for a couple of hours, and several things have been progressed by several Graham weeks. So, progress.
Look, I'm creative.
When's that starting?
Yeah. Okay, let's get going. Have I fixed my email? No.
Although there was at least a conversation about the email to work out a rough idea of a plan.
Yeah, I changed my email out from horizontal, so you have your messages in your reading pane. I changed it so the reading pane is now vertical on the right instead. Which
It's still terrible, but there was at least a discussion about... There was at least a discussion about fixing the email. So, that's something.
Yeah.
Oh, dear. But
okay.
Yes.
Right. MC Gadget Man has paid £5 to say, hi Cam. Hi Cam, you... say, oh yes, hi, can you say hi? I had a lot of trouble with that spelling error then, I'm sorry. Hello, Kim Cartwright. How you doing? Thank you very much for the super chat.
Oh dear.
Right, YouTube keeps stopping. Can anyone else confirm? Are we getting a lot of buffering here? Can anyone confirm?
I hope not.
Yeah.
Because I don't think we changed anything.
Yeah, well, I have tweaked some settings, but I'm not dropping any frames according to OBS. So yeah. Anyone else having issues? Everything fine? Yeah. Try giving the page a refresh if you're having issues with buffering. It may come good. All right. Okay. There's a whole. All right. That's fine. It's all good. Okay. I don't think the
Excellent.
I don't think the phone is too audible. So.
Oh dear. Anyway, so
let's get going.
Yes, absolutely. On Discord, there are several links.
On Discord, there are several links. Okay,
yes.
Right. What's off from you or from?
No, in here.
In staff. Okay, yeah.
Yes.
Okay,
so you have choices.
Okay, let's see. All right, so we've got some topics to kick off on. We've got we've got the Intel reports their latest profit reports,
Earnings thingies.
Yeah. We've got the Intel DG1 GPU now shipping. I don't know anything about that, and also leaks of the RX 6800 XT stuff. So, which of those do you want to talk about the most of all? I think I just want to quickly talk about the Intel profit reports, just because that's a quick throwaway thing, isn't it?
Yeah, so, absolutely. Just a case of the fact of, even though they are still getting battered in consumer space, the fact that they still turned over just shy of $19 billion in a quarter.
Yeah.
In one financial quarter, $19 billion.
Yeah. So just like all the people that are going, man, Intel is toast, man, Intel is finished, they're fine. Basically, Intel are fine. Is what we've learned from this. Yes, the hearts and minds, they're getting battered by AMD. Profit-wise, they're fine. You know?
Yeah. Although, interestingly, their net margin has reduced over the past couple of quarters, which is interesting sort of mark on that. Just a case of, their actual raw profitability has reduced by a couple of percentage points, but their actual raw turnover is still very high. So they're still managing to throughput a lot of money through them.
They're
just
conducting a lot of business.
Yeah, exactly. So it's kind of a case of even if their profit isn't there, because they have the throughput and the flow of money, that obviously still looks good if they wanted to get loans and so on. So they can still accrue operating loans and things like that to bridge gaps and anything like that. But yeah, if you see here, yes, the ratio has gone down ever so slightly from 58-ish% last year to 53-ish this year. So it's still a case of their margin is still over half. Yeah. But it's gone down. So
there we go then. Yeah. So they are on a little bit of a low, but basically the quickie thing we're starting off on is news just in: Intel are fine, basically. So
yeah,
righto. Okay, well that in mind then. Well, while we're still talking about Intel, then, so what's this DG1 GPU? What is that? Is this the Ampere stuff?
No, that's NVIDIA.
Oh yes. Oh yeah, I'm thinking of. I don't know what I was thinking of.
No, so the DG1 is Intel's plan for effectively a dedicated graphics card. Their thing to challenge AMD and NVIDIA in the discrete graphics card space. Excuse me, is for something like that. And
Iris Xe Max
is the one that they have just released effectively. And the Xe Z, I don't know.
Z.
Something like that. Excuse me. There you go. I believe it's what it is a case of basically the first one they've released is in laptops. But very interestingly, they, as far as I can tell, they never actually released any press releases or anything saying, we are now releasing this. It was all from the partner who released the laptop. So it's just kind of a little bit like, you slightly back-footed by it. But yeah, so it just seems to be an ever so slightly odd launch for what seems to be the start of something that they're reasonably heavily aiming at.
Yeah, I mean, in the press release here, it says, somewhat surprisingly, CEO Bob Swan, who is Bob Swan, has also confirmed that this isn't just a DG1 successor, it's a higher performing GPU based on the upcoming architecture, and it is an enthusiast gamer focused architecture. So Intel are serious. They want this in gaming PCs, which I think is quite interesting.
And I'm looking forward to it. Even if it isn't particularly competitive, purely from the perspective of I want to see more
competition.
Yeah, I want to see more horses in more races.
Yeah.
I want to see 3 manufacturers of graphics cards. I'd love to see 3 processors.
Yeah.
3 processor manufacturers again.
Because two-party systems suck. Am I right, lads, or am I right, lads?
Yeah. It's a case of whilst AMD right now is keeping Intel keen and so on, it's still a case that there's no random third shuffler in and out of sort of, the top spot for everything to kind of jump in on and just kind of, suddenly go, actually, let's try doing it completely differently. We've got nothing to lose kind of thing. And suddenly it going right kind of thing. That there isn't that such of a opportunity.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Cool. Rolling back a little bit, Demony BS, I think I've got that right. $10 super chat. Have some funds, good sir. Thank you very much, good sir. Much appreciated. Always
Absolutely.
appreciated, never required.
And it may actually eventually get round to stools.
Yes. You know what? As soon as we're finished, we'll go on Amazon and we'll buy some stools.
Yeah.
You're going to help me pick out some nice new chairs.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And we'll make sure to use the affiliate links.
Yes.
Yes, the affiliate links, which will be available in the video description. Wait, hold on. Maybe not today.
Well, yeah. We'll put an affiliate link to the stools I'm buying. You could buy the stools that I will be using in this shop. Yes.
I don't know if that's a claim to fame or a value add or anything like that, but it's something.
Can you imagine if we did that and they went out of stock this week?
I mean, that'd be amazing.
Yeah.
As long as, the ones for the shop got shipped first.
Yeah. All right. Market Rescue My Tech. I was about to butcher that, and then I was like, oh, Rescue My Tech, I get it. Market Rescue My Tech. Does that mean you want IBM Cyrix back? I don't know about them specifically.
Yeah,
However, I mean, remember when Cyrix and stuff was a thing,
Yeah.
It's good to have more people in it, because,
Yeah, absolutely.
like I said, two-party systems suck, because you have to go with one or the other. And if the current opposition isn't doing very well because of reasons, it basically means you don't have a choice, because you've got... This is what happened when Intel were getting complacent and they were going through the motions before Ryzen came in and shook things up. It was a matter of everyone was buying Intel because that's basically all you could buy, because everything else was bollocks.
Yeah.
So, yeah, as I said, IBM Cyrix, don't know about them specifically, but a third option? Sure, why not?
I would love to see a valid second architecture come in as well. So a case of, instead of it being x86 or x64, coming in with something and just going like, here is RISC-V for desktop, giving blazing Facebook performance.
Yeah. Although I just also saw someone else mentioning about Apple products there, of course, with Apple coming in swinging with their own chips in their computers, that I'm not expecting anyone else to follow suit. However, it could be interesting if anyone looks, there might be some other companies out there that see that happen and go, because the other thing as well is I've got in the shop for diagnostics, I've got a Samsung Galaxy Tab Pro, which is basically a tablet, but it's running Windows 10. I don't know what
Is it the
CPU.
ARM one?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I can't be bothered to get up and go and get it and find out.
Yes.
However, if they actually came out with an ARM chip that can run x86 Windows through emulation or whatever, again, people copy Apple. It's what happens.
Yeah.
We might see someone else try and pull something like that.
Certainly in certain cases, it's a case that copying Apple on that front, entering the chip business, wouldn't be a bad thing. It might not be a profitable thing, but it...
Yeah, as
certainly be something I'd be interested in as a consumer.
I'm certainly interested in watching how it goes. As a spectator, I'm
absolutely.
not ready to buy into any of it, but I'm going to be keeping a keen eye on it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I like the prospect of someone with the amount of money Apple has entering into making their own chips for desktop stuff. Just because I imagine we're going to get some crazy good stuff out of it, because they're just going to be like, nah, that's not good enough. More.
Yeah.
Because occasionally you get products like that from Apple where they just go more, better, stronger stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Not always,
so it's a case
but
of
they've got it in them. They've got it in them. This person's going to try and come in.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
Oh yeah. Can I pick up that? Oh, right. Thank you.
Don't come in during my live show, I said. I'm starting a live show. Do not come to... Let's get back to what we were talking about.
That's mad.
I'm not going to say anything. I just handed her a bare SSD. Whatever. I'm doing a live show, I said. Do not come to the shop. I'm doing a live... Right. Yes. So, yeah, there's some interesting stuff coming on. David Starbuck says for the coffee fund. Thank you for the super chat, for the $20 super chat. Is your name actually David Starbuck? Like, because there's a Starbucks pun in there somewhere.
Oh, see, I was going to go for Battlestar Galactica, which is the far better option.
Fair enough. I haven't seen Battlestar Galactica.
Oh.
I'm sorry. We can't be friends anymore, can we? Either way, thank you very much for the $20. I greatly appreciate it.
Absolutely. I feel like that is a lot of coffee, though.
Yes, quite likely. It all helps. Also, I just need to quickly acknowledge another thing that popped up in the chat. I've lost your name now, but someone brought up. They said that they'd watched the beer can wall video. Yes, well done for digging that one out. That was a good time. That was a good LAN party I was at. That's all I'm going to say about that.
Absolutely.
Right, where are we up to?
Battlestar Galactica being great. Yes, absolutely. Until it started getting a little sanctimonious about religion.
My last name is indeed Starbuck. Well, there we go. I'm sure I'm not the first person to make a Starbucks joke, so I apologise for that. As someone who is routinely called Adam from Adam and the Ants, I apologise. So,
yes, absolutely.
Cool. Right.
Oh, dear.
What else have we got going on?
But yes, we were talking about,
Yes.
just people entering the general chip market and
Yes.
having more horses in that race. And I think that's a good thing.
Yes, I agree. Oh, I need to stop moving on this chair right now. I apologise for that.
Absolutely. Yep. Good Lord, stalls after the show will happen.
Yeah, I'm just going to sit still. So, all right, well, let's move on to our third one while we're letting things move along. AMD 6800 XT leaks apparently benchmarks with and without ray tracing. All right,
Yes,
so
absolutely.
Has it got hardware ray tracing, or is this...
Yes, as far as we know, considering it's RDNA 2 and the new Xbox and the new PlayStation have RDNA 2 graphics cards, hardware ray tracing is a feature baked into RDNA 2.
Cool.
And it's built in there, and it was in there from the beginning. It wasn't something that was added in for consoles.
Yeah. So the leaks that we've seen, just to throw out a couple of numbers, are so the leaks are implying that the 6800 XT will be faster than a 3080 Founders Edition in Time Spy Extreme 4K. So that's 96. So with the 6800 XT being 100%, the 3080 FE is 96.9%. So it's by a hair.
Yeah, so it's effectively 3% faster.
Yeah. So 3% faster, which is negligible. But the point is, if the 6800 XT is going to come out and trade blows with Nvidia's new flagship, then that's pretty good.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's bloody spectacular.
And it's a case of I think that's what kind of everyone was really hoping for, was just a case of it to at least be within a couple of percent of like the 3080.
I'm going to go and bin that phone. Can you hold that a sec? Excuse me a moment.
Oh wow.
I'm going over.
Okay, this is going to be impressive. Dun 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 dun.
Right.
So yes.
The phone has been buried. It can't hurt us anymore.
Absolutely. Yes. The parkour is real.
This shop is too darn small.
Funnily enough, there may be a new shop.
There might be. That's super secret at the moment. Though. I'm keeping it super secret, so because I've got to give something exclusive for the contributors. So far, I haven't told them much about it yet. The contributors are getting to see getting the inside scoop on the new things that are coming up. I'm going to keep
absolutely
all the information will be going to there, and I will tell everyone else about it when it's done. Basically,
yeah, absolutely.
However,
but yes, there may be actual developments.
There may be. It's on its way,
which is good.
Grey Peter, thank you for the £5 toward the new stools. Greatly appreciated.
Absolutely, thank you.
You have no idea how appreciated.
Yes, and everyone's ears.
Yeah.
But yes. Just a comment. I saw someone saying about an APU with RAM speed. My general rule with that is the fastest RAM you can get for that before you go above 3600 is better. APUs, especially if you're using the graphics section of it, are massively memory starved. You need as much speed as you can get in your RAM for APUs.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, because you built, what was it, a 3400G you were working with, or a 3200G?
Yeah, ARP5 3400G.
Yeah. It was a Zen Plus APU, yeah.
Yes.
And you were basically, you were fiddling around with one of those, and you were just overclocking the balls off of the RAM, and it was basically just overclock RAM, GPU goes faster.
Yeah.
That was it.
Absolutely.
It was that simple,
I
wasn't
think the thing that amazed me as well is the fact that I bought a 2666 megahertz RAM kit, just a standard Corsair LPX kit. The cheapest ATX motherboard I could get, which was the ASRock Pro 4, and a 3400G. And I got the RAM up to like 3833 or something like that. It's something like CL18.
You must have just won the lottery on
I was just
Silicon Lottery with that
what
RAM.
the hell? Yeah. And
although, do you reckon
I was
RAM
at like 1.68 volts.
Yeah.
But,
okay, yeah.
But it was a case of, even at that, it was still a case of it worked. And I was just like, that's ridiculous.
Probably would have cooked the silicon within a year, but hypothetically, for a suicide run.
Absolutely. But it was a case of I downclocked it and supplied someone with a computer with RAM at 3600 running at 1.5 volts. And they have had no issues with it, and it's getting on for 2 years old now. And it's not crashed or anything.
Damn. Fair enough.
Yeah, and it was a case of, I was just like, I was amazed that the motherboard went so well, and amazed that the RAM went so well, and then that the processor, I got another 400 megahertz out of the iGPU clock, I think, 450 megahertz. So it wasn't massive amount, but all they were looking for, the latest game they had was Sims 4 with no expansion packs or anything like that. They just got it and they couldn't play it. And then they separately said to me, "Oh, I need a new computer," and I went, "I've got an old case and an old power supply. I can knock some money off of the cost of building one. Yeah, let's sort of bundle stuff together." And I had Sims 4, and I think I gave them an extra, like, 15% or something like that in the frame rate. It just nudged it up just high enough for it to kind of sit in the 50s to 60s.
Fair enough.
It's like crazy.
Yeah, and that's. I mean, at the end of the day, for the amount that you pay for that, that's decent. You know?
Exactly. It was the thing that was the entertainment, and the thing that I found crazy wasn't necessarily the performance gains and where it went to. It was just how high the speeds scaled on something that was so effectively bottom end. So yeah.
Fair enough. Secret Carper says, do you think graphics cards are going to go down in price soon with the new releases coming out? They have to at some point because, again, the RRP on the 30 series is so good. The intended price of the 30 series is brilliant bang for buck versus what we've had up until recently. But it's just waiting for the supply chain to sort itself out. And it's a case of, it doesn't really matter. I don't know when that's going to be. I don't know what NVIDIA are doing to sort it out or anything at the moment. But at some point, that supply chain will stop being an issue, and those prices are going to come down to what NVIDIA intended them to be. And I think
exactly.
It's going to be very interesting to see what price the 6800 XT comes in at, because right now they could release it. Well, it depends. I mean, if they've got the supply for it, the 6800 XT could come in and just completely just rip the rug out from under NVIDIA, because
absolutely.
NVIDIA came in with this amazing recommended retail price. However, if they can't actually supply any of them, that's worthless.
Yeah.
And if AMD come in and say, we're selling a card that's the same speed as this for the same recommended retail price, but ours are in stock, then people are going to walk up and buy, I'll buy your entire stock,
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't know, because I don't know what the current actual kind of rough selling price of like the 3080 is for the partner cards. I'm presuming it's high 700s. I'm presuming it's around that mark. AMD could easily come in at the high 700s and just go, here it is, it's in stock, and just price match NVIDIA down, because...
Yeah. Just
they could just slowly trickle their prices down, because AMD's never really been afraid of doing that.
Yeah.
They've not been in a powerful position before where they could just dictate a price and say pay it or go elsewhere. But they've never been particularly afraid of going, here's £25 off, here's £5 off, here's another £5 off as products get old.
Yeah.
So kind of just gently trickling the price down as the Nvidia supply ticks up, so the retail prices start ticking down.
And just track the market.
And basically just tracking ever so slightly under that. So they're saying, well, we're 3 to 18% faster, but we're also, say, 3% cheaper kind of thing.
Yeah.
And if they just kept tracking that, it makes sense on a value proposition as well. Especially as assuming they have a new VCN. I'm hoping video core next. Basically, the bit that does all of the video encode decode.
Oh yes.
If they have RDNA 2 version of that as well, I think it basically makes them feature comparable.
Yeah.
Because
as I say, I always harp on about this, but the reason why I still want NVIDIA in my PC at home is because I need NVENC. I'm a game streamer, and NVENC is still the best option for game streamers.
Yeah, absolutely.
So yeah.
And I think NVENC is probably going to basically always be better because NVIDIA goes, here's $1 billion for developing NVENC.
I mean,
here's another $5 billion for developing NVENC.
NVENC has been fit for purpose for a couple of generations now. I'm sure the new ones are better and everything, don't get me wrong, but I was running NVENC on a 960 2 gigabyte. So like even as far back as Maxwell, wasn't it? 900 series was Maxwell?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Yes.
As far back as Maxwell, NVENC was viable.
Yeah.
So all AMD have to do is provide at least Maxwell grade video encoding, and that will be viable as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah. As far as I'm aware, I haven't explicitly tested it, but the 5700 XT and so on should be similar-ish to VCE in the sense of the actual output.
Yeah.
The performance isn't there and all of the other stuff around it, but the actual output, the quality of the actual picture you get from the other side should be roughly there.
Yeah. I wonder how the last time I used AMD VCE, you needed a fork of OBS to run it. And I wonder how that fork is doing, if that's still been getting development. Because if they've still been developing the VCE fork of OBS, and if that is ready for the new ones when it comes out, then that means there will actually be software support for that as well.
Yeah,
which
absolutely.
Would be good.
You've also got, I want to call it Relive, but I've no idea if that's what it's actually called.
Relive.
Something like that.
Yeah.
The AMD stuff, which does the game capture and broadcast and so on.
Yeah.
I've not used that in anger. I'm not a streamer. But I've seen that it's a thing in the driver, and I have heard that it functions.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. And it's a case of that's a good place to start from, actually having it function.
Yeah. Failing that, failing that, they could just make an OBS plugin that can hook into Relive. There's lots of ways that they can make that work.
Yeah. See, someone says Relive works well, so...
Oh, I'll read that in a sec. I just want to roll back a little bit because Super Andy ACS did do that £5 super chat back there saying, better stools! And I want to say thank you very much, Andy. Excellent. I see you there.
Yes. Oh, no. We will supply in the description stool samples.
Let me see. Who said that VC is working well? Where was that?
Somewhere here. Here, there we go.
Oh yeah, Relive works great.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah, boy.
Yeah, boy. Says Relive works great. Cool. Do you stream on that? Like, do you have an overlay and stuff like that? Because, obviously, having streaming software that just broadcasts your game and maybe with a mic over the top, that's easy. But doing a full streamer setup with the webcam, with an overlay, with built-in chat, squeak, and all the rest of it, that's where you need OBS, is to build your overlay and that kind of thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that'd be interesting. John Dell, with lots of ones, donates €5. What would you recommend for my monitor? My need is 27-inch, resolution 2K, 144 Hz, 1 millisecond HDR, 300. You're not going to get it for 300.
Yeah.
However, look at the Asus VG27 series, I think it is. The Asus VG27 series is, they've got monitors around your budget, between £300 and £500, 27-inch. They've got them in 1440p options with 144 Hz. There's a non-IPS version and IPS version. The non-IPS version, which is what I've got at home, they're about £350, I think. 340 maybe. That's what I would recommend for you. It's not the best monitor ever, but I've got 2 of them on my desk at home and I enjoy them. If you pay another £100, you pay like $440, you get it with IPS, which should be drastically better, but now we're at £440 instead of $340. So yeah, Asus VG20, I'm going to Google it just to double check because it's the VG. Asus VG27.
The other thing I'd say is, as you're saying that it's not for gaming, but for work, is a case of possibly lowering choosing whether you need HDR for mastering HDR content or whether you need the high temporal resolution, because it depends on which one is important to you, because you're going to have to pick at that price point.
Yeah.
And I would say if it's for work, I would say my personal preference would be going for a Dell Ultra Sharp.
Yeah, I was
day in, day out, Dell Ultra Sharps.
I missed that bit. Yeah, if you're going for if you're going for work, not for gaming, I agree with Caradog there. Forget what I said about that because I was talking gaming there. I would actually not bother with high refresh rate if it's for work. I would aim for 60 hertz so you can spend more to get a Dell Ultra Sharp that's got an IPS panel in it. So an Ultra Sharp, like, I don't know what the current models are, but basically the Dell Ultra Sharp U series of monitors.
Yeah, something like the I think it's the U2714U is the current 1440p one.
Yeah.
The final letter will probably be wrong on that.
Yeah.
But yes, it will be something in that order.
Yeah.
Any of the Dell U27 somethings will be what I would recommend for that use case.
Agreed.
Just because...
And I would definitely...
They're so pretty by comparison.
Like, as I say, when I bought my new monitors, the high refresh rate is nice in gaming, the higher resolution is nice, the bigger size and the curve was nice. However, in terms of viewing angles and color accuracy, my old Dell Ultra Sharps blow them out the water. For productivity, Dell Ultra Sharp for days.
Yeah, absolutely. But it's a case of, I think it's fair to mention that I've been heavily in the Dell monitor camp for 10 years?
Yeah.
12 years? So this year was the first year I've had a monitor on any of my computers.
Monitor.
It monitors things.
He's got a TV on his desk.
I have an OLED monitor connected via HDMI. I have no idea what you're on about.
He has a 50-inch TV on his desk.
The details. But yes, so I've very much been a strong supporter of the Dell Ultra Sharps because also they make 16x10s. And 16x10 for me, for the fact that I do an awful lot of office work which requires Word documents and PDFs and all of that stuff, side by side, tiled, stacked around the place. Yeah, it's absolutely been better for me, and I think 16x10 is better.
Yeah, agreed with that.
Yeah.
Couple of things coming up. There's been a couple of people asking about next repair videos, soldering videos, stuff like that. I'm in a dry spot for repair videos at the moment. There's been nothing good in the shop. I tried recording another one this afternoon. It was the job was a bust again, where it was a case of just, again, some silicon issue in this laptop. No idea what it is. This is a bust, However, this weekend I'm going to record some electronics theory videos. I'm going to try to anyway. That will be component basics. So what is a capacitor? What does it do? What is a resistor? What does it do? That kind of thing. That's what I've got planned coming up. There's lots of PC building content in the pipeline, but I am trying to work on some repair videos. I just don't have any good stuff in the shop for making videos on at the moment, which is a bit frustrating. Another super chat coming in from Chris. Thanks for the £5 super chat, my dude. Stool funds. And a question. 3600X idles at 50 degrees. What's the deal? I would expect it to idle in the low 40s, I suppose. Although, however, idle temperature is meaningless. What's your low temperature? The 3600, considering it's a low-end CPU, does run kind of hot. Both the 3600s I've had quite happily sit between 45 degrees and 70 degrees, as in 70 under load. I've got a 3800X in my PC at home now, which runs at the same temperature despite having more cores and more clock. The 3600 is a really low binned chip, so it runs hot, basically.
It's also the way the boost algorithm works. It's working as intended.
Yeah.
Because it's a case of the boost algorithm...
Boost algorithm?
The boost algorithm. Yes, there you go. It will basically pump close to infinite voltage into the chip at idle to get absolute peak maximum ultra possible clock speed on a single or two cores kind of thing. Because you're getting such a light load, it's all lumped on a single core. So it will pump in maybe 1.5 volts or something like that. But as soon as you start applying actual load, you'll see the voltage drop down to like 1.38, 1.36. So it's kind of a case of, in that range, that as you start applying more load, the temperature might stay almost exactly the same, but it's because the way the boost algorithm works.
Yeah.
And it's a case of, if you want to get into it and you want to start tweaking voltages and things like that, and setting slightly more static voltages and things like that, you can absolutely do it and massively reduce your idle temperatures, just to make sure you're not losing performance by the chip effectively stalling by not having enough voltage.
Yeah.
So make sure you're running something like Prime 95.
Yeah.
Make sure you're running something like Super Pi. Something like that gives you an actual CPU result at the end, a measure of performance, then knock your voltage down slightly. Run the same test. Make sure the performance hasn't degraded.
Yeah, because that seems to be the issue with Ryzen overclocking, is it's very easy to start fiddling with the numbers and you can start changing the statistics, but you may find you're actually losing output performance.
Yeah.
With Ryzen... Ryzen is very much a case of sometimes you need to go slower to go faster, if you see what I mean.
And also, they're actually surprisingly good at recovering from like hardware fault states.
Yeah.
In the sense of, it won't blue screen in the same way other stuff does. Certainly on low voltages or things like that. And in my experience, trying to do very mild overclocking on my 2700X, it will hard lock up, not blue screen. Whereas on Intel stuff, overclocking it, every time I've overclocked it before, it will blue screen, not hard lock up. So it's just kind of different learning bits of learning how the completely different silicon functions, because, funnily enough, it's completely different silicon.
Yeah, fair enough.
But yeah.
To answer the question, what's a good budget CPU? 3600. Quite frankly, the 3600 is cracking value for money.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, it's the price it's currently at. You get a lot of you're getting a lot of bang for buck with the 3600 non-X. Forget the X, forget it.
Absolutely.
Just the 3600 non-X is a cracking little CPU.
And if you can get it on a deal, the new i5 10 600K is also a cracking processor. Other than that, going below that, so to like the non-K and the 400, I don't think they're worth the price reduction.
No.
Especially as I don't think we've seen any good H or B motherboards yet for the 4XX chipset.
Yeah,
we haven't seen any good H or B ones, so it's kind of a case of getting a non-K seems like a waste, especially as I think you're basically forced into buying a Z series to get something good, which is then means it's an overclocking board without an overclocking processor.
And you're going to lose your savings in buying a more expensive motherboard. Yeah.
So
your only other option for CPUs would have been something like the 3300X. However, I don't know if those exist yet or not. Does the 3300X exist again yet?
Seem to have very trickly stock in the US and in Germany.
Because again, the 3300X is a viable gaming CPU and it's crazy cheap.
Well,
but
it's an excellent gaming CPU.
However, because it's crazy cheap and it's really good bang for buck, it goes out of stock every time it appears in stock.
Yeah, absolutely.
If you can find one, it's great. But obviously, it's no good if you can't get one.
Yeah, PC World have literally stopped listing it on their website.
Oh, really? Rip.
Yeah. Amazon has said since March, this is out of stock and we don't know when we're getting stock.
Yeah.
And just stuff like that, and it's just been mad. But a viable option for a very similar price to the roughly what the sale price of the 3300 should be is the 2600 or 2600X, depending on exact pricing on the day. The 2600, 2600X will be within 5% of the 3300.
Yeah, fair enough.
X, 3300, 3300X. I've forgotten what the names are already. Oh dear. Too many letters.
Michael Taylor says, what speed memory should I be looking for with a 3700X? 2 times 16 or 4 times 8? Firstly, well, I'll go first and you see if you disagree with me.
I personally, for me, because I've got the money, to go very good RAM, I would go 3600 CL15 2x16.
Yeah, that was basically going to be my response. And I was going to say, at least get 3200, basically. 3200 is fine. If you can get 34 or 3600, that's good. Look for CL15, because that means it's much tighter timings, because that will get you... Because the cheap... like, when you look at cheap 3600 RAM, it'll probably be CL16 or CL17, and you're losing timings to get the clock speed there. Whereas CL15 is... fast timings, high clock speed.
Yeah.
And then the other thing is the reason why go for 2 times 16 gigs, because when you go into quad channel, you'll probably have troubles with XMP in quad channel mode. Whereas in dual channel mode with 2 memory modules, you're much likely to have no issues getting it up to XMP speeds.
Yeah, absolutely. And just a comment of it wouldn't be quad channel, it would still be dual channel.
Oh, okay.
It would be quad rank on dual channel.
Yeah.
Yes,
sorry.
because the channels are governed by the memory controller.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes. So yes, absolutely. I would follow that. Also, a case of CL16, there's nothing wrong with that, especially if you're pushing like 3600 mega transfers.
Just bonus points for CL15.
It's just bonus points. The only kit I have seen in the UK for 3600 CL15 is a Ripjaw set that you have to import from Newegg America.
Oh, wow.
That's literally the only kit I've seen for the past 2 weeks.
It's just I would actually wager that, I mean, you'd have to run benchmarks, but I wonder if you were looking for CL15, you may be better off looking at like a 3400 kit. But the problem is it's difficult because, as I say, when you get up to these kinds of memory speeds, you're trading clock speed for timings. And it's finding a balance point, and I personally don't know where the balance point is, because you get some people that are just like, more clock speed, sir! And you get some people who are like, no, you're losing too much timings. Your clock speed is higher, but you're not going any faster because you're losing too much timing to get there.
Absolutely.
However, of course, the other thing as well is that with Ryzen, when you bring up the clock speed, you're bringing up the infinity fabric speed of the CPU as well, which is the other big thing, because the infinity fabric of your CPU, so that is in your Ryzen, you've got your chiplets, so you've got your clusters of cores inside the CPU. The bus that those chiplets use to talk to each other is the infinity fabric bus, and that tracks memory speed. So if your memory speed is higher, your CPU's internal communications are higher as well. That reduces latency, makes things go faster. So yeah. However, again, this is why AMD loves RAM speed. But basically, just 32 or 3400, you'll be fine. The important thing is, if you go under 3200, you're going to start leaving performance on the table. You're going to be losing speed that you could have.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's a case of, I think it's basically, the very quick summary is, get 3200 or faster, and get the lowest timings you can get at whatever speed.
Yeah.
And I would say there's a wonderful website called PC Part Picker, and in there you can sort by RAM timings, by CAS latency, but also by first word latency. And the first word latency is clock speed times CAS latency. So it effectively times the two together, and it tells you, is this kit faster on a latency perspective?
Yes.
Is going up to 3800 at CL18 faster than 3600 at CL17 and stuff like that, and it does that without you having to do the maths.
Yeah, because that leads on to an interesting thing where at some point, I can't remember where it was, but I think it was in the Discord, people were saying sort of, oh man, CL15, what have we come to? I remember when we used to be fighting for CL8 and CL9 kind of thing. It's like, yeah, but back then the RAM was running at like 1200 megahertz.
Mega transfers.
Mega transfers. Whereas now, we're running at 2 or 3 times the clock speed, the cycle speeds there. So suddenly the CL speeds make sense again. So it all adds up.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, I realised to go into that properly, we have to start going into maths, and I'm not going to do that off the top of my head.
Yeah, but a case of very much going into,
RAM speeds.
I remember when. I remember buying an OCZ Platinum kit for DDR2 and being, ooh, and it being like CL5 or something like that.
RAM timings and speeds are really, really complicated, but the numbers are fascinating. The speed that these timings are dealing with is mind-blowing.
Yeah.
And it's just, when you look at the numbers, you're just like, come again, but really complicated, and I barely understand it myself.
Yeah, absolutely. Just to jump in a question I saw there where someone was saying about 4 cores, 8 threads, or 6 cores, 6 threads. Depends on the CPUs providing the cores and threads.
Yeah.
Because you could have 4 cores, 8 threads from a 4th generation i7.
Yeah.
Or you could have the 6 cores and 6 threads coming from a Zen 2 CPU, coming from something like an R5 3500X, which, yes, is an OEM-only part, but it's a part that physically exists.
Yeah.
And the Zen is going to be faster because of IPC improvements and because it's got more actual cores. And 4th gen Intel, there was still quite a big overhead for the hyperthreading. So the extra thread, even though you have 8 threads, 4 of them are running at, say, 100% speed, or 4 of them are running at, say, 75% speed.
Yeah.
So it's kind of that balance and so on. So yeah. And yeah, certainly a case of if you can get 12 threads instead of 6 threads with 6 real cores and so on, then yeah, obviously that's even better. But it depends on what CPUs you're picking between.
The earlier multi-threading was really interesting because, especially these days where core and thread count is what a lot of people are looking at, a lot of people are looking at old CPUs going sort of, a really great example is the AMD FX, where you could have like an FX8 that was 4 cores, 8 threads. I put in quote marks because I know that's a can of worms.
That's a rabbit hole.
4 cores, 8 threads. And people are going to sort 4 cores, 8 threads, that's not too bad. However, a really good analogy I heard for it is that it was like imagining, a lot of people think that if your CPU is a lorry making deliveries, if you've got 2 threads per core, you've got 2 lorries, right? It's like, no. The multi-threading on these older CPUs was more like you've got 1 lorry, but it's got the rear axle has 2 sets of tires, so it's 1 lorry but can carry really heavy loads, kind of thing. And so it's a case of, if you want to carry a really heavy load, that's helpful. But if you want to go to 2 places at once, not helpful.
Yeah.
Whereas these days, modern multi-threading is much, much closer to having 2 actual lorries, which means you're literally doing 2 things at the same time, which is obviously a completely different ballgame altogether. So this is why, the multi-threaded CPUs of previous generations may not hold up a candle to the same core and thread count of a modern CPU.
Yeah,
IPC is king.
Yeah, absolutely.
IPC is king.
And just to go from that, I think the question was actually being asked about an FX6 compared to something else.
Oh, well, yeah.
I would say basically the answer is the FX6 will be worse, irrespective of what you're comparing it to.
The FX
was
bad.
Awful.
FX is bad. Don't listen to... Like, lots of people go, oh, they overclock really well. They're bad. They're bad. The FX was bad.
To put that into a fantastic example, I think it's the FX 93070 or something like that.
Yeah.
The final hurrah one.
Yeah.
Absolutely bonkers 250 watts stock power draw and all of that stuff. That overclocked to, I think, 8 gigahertz. 7 point something, 8 gigahertz. That, its multi-threaded score in Cinebench R15 is lower than the single-threaded score in Cinebench R15 for a Ryzen 3600.
Ow.
Right?
Ow.
So, yeah, basically, sadly, the FX was never particularly good.
Yeah.
And it's definitely not good today.
Yeah.
An i3-10300F will be drastically faster.
And I want to also point out, I did have an FX8. I had, until before I built the current PC I have, that had an i5 in it and now has the 3800X in it. Before I built that PC, my old PC was an FX 8350. I know the FX CPUs. I owned one. I ran it. I dailied it for 6 years.
Yeah,
so trust me, when I say it's bad, it's because I've owned one and I've felt the pain. Yeah. So as much as it as I say, I know the pain of owning an FX.
Yes, absolutely.
Buy a new CPU. Buy a new computer. I know it sucks to hear it. I know it's not what people want to hear.
Yeah.
But trust me, you'll get a new computer and it'll change your world. It changed my world. So, yeah,
absolutely. Absolutely, yes. And just to something else I saw quickly in there, someone was saying about RAM speeds. Should I go for a higher number on the CL? No, you want the lowest possible CL you can get for that speed.
Lower timings are better.
Yeah, CL is CAS latency, and it's a case of you want the latency, the delay, how long the RAM waits for, to be as low as possible. So you want 15, 16, 17, that order, not 18, 19, 20, 22.
Yeah. The gist of what these numbers mean, because obviously RAM timings, you start off with there's 6 numbers or something like that for the basics, and then you've got a whole laundry list of different timings. Yeah. And what those all are is, I'm not going to go through every one of them, but the gist of it is, you've got your memory clock speed, and that is just simply how often the CPU is. That's how often the CPU can send a signal out to the memory, in short. And then the timings, the way that DRAM works is it's volatile. You have to constantly keep powering it up over and over to maintain the contents of it. And so you've got how often you're cycling the memory. Then you've got, once you cycle it, you've got how long you have to wait before you can then address the memory. Then after you address the memory, so you select which section of the memory you're going to, how long you have to wait before the memory will say, I have found that address, what do you want? And then after you've done that, you've then got another timing that is how long it takes for the memory to then send the data back. So that's what all these timings are. They're all those tiny little, these are measured in nanoseconds. The amount of time that you're waiting for each part of the sequence of accessing something from the memory. Because you've got to remember, while the memory is dicking about doing all of this addressing, refreshing, lookup, request, reply, and all the rest of that, your CPU is sitting there going, I'm running at 5 gigahertz here, son, I've got time, And obviously, while your CPU is waiting for the memory to respond, it's just wasting CPU cycles. Now, in an ideal world, your CPU is going to go off and do something else while it waits for the memory to respond. However, there might be a time where the CPU is like, I've got nothing else to do. I need this data. Where's my data, man? And that's why your timings that's why you want your timings to be low, so the memory wakes up and responds faster. And also, that's also why timings can get really funky, where you want the timings to be a multiples of your clock speed and stuff like that. When you really get into the really last percent, you can get it so you want your timings to be in sync. Because, for example, if your memory is running at exactly the same speed as the CPU, when the CPU sends out a request, the memory will respond at the same time. But if they're going out of time with each other, the CPU will send out a signal and it'll hit the memory when the memory is off cycle. And then you have to wait for it to come around onto its net cycle before it actually receives that signal. And woo! This is why memory timings get crazy. And this is why there's a laundry list of them.
Yeah, absolutely. And there are, I believe, at least officially recognised 3 sets of timings now. So you have primary, secondary, and tertiary timings now. And it's all sort of set up.
Yeah. This is why I don't do memory overclocking.
But you should do. It's fun.
No, if I want memory clocking, I'll go watch actually hardcore overclocking, and I'll let him do that.
Yeah, absolutely. But yes, someone was quickly saying about for video editing, which CPU you should use. Depends on which program you are using for the video editing. Adobe stuff still loves Intel more than it loves AMD.
Yeah.
However, with each new generation of Zen, that gap has narrowed. So it's also a question of what is your budget. Yeah. So 3600X is going to... Sorry, 3600 or 3600X is going to be a total system cost that is slightly lower than an i5 10600 or 10600F.
My personal experience, I edit in... not Sony, it has been Sony for ages. I edit in Magic's Vegas Pro And I edit in Vegas Pro 14, so quite an old version of it as well. So I'm getting no benefits of hardware encoding or anything like that. Just brute force is what makes my video editing go faster. And I found that like Vegas, again, clock speed is king. My i5 was slightly faster. My i5 8600K, so that's 6 cores, 6 threads at 4.7 gigahertz, was slightly faster than a Ryzen 3600, which is 6 cores, 12 threads. And then when I moved, however, recently I've gone up to a 3800X, and that is now faster than my i5 was. So it's a case of Intel. It still seems to clock speed still seems to be king. Clock speed with Adobe seems to be king. And if you're in older apps where you're not getting any real benefits of hardware or anything like that, clock speed is still king, but you can start brute forcing it. Again, I'm now going faster with my 3800X just because I've just thrown more cores, more threads, more everything at it, and I'm brute forcing to more speed at this point. However, for raw video editing, Intel still seems to be king, but as said, you can just brute force your way forward with an obnoxious Ryzen. And that seems to be why Ryzen is still one of the better choices, because even though there are some areas where Intel is theoretically better, Ryzen can still just hit it with a sledgehammer. A sledgehammer is still a valid approach to most problems.
I mean, I just find that funny only because obviously AMD had a series of processors where the code name was Sledgehammer. So you could literally hit it with an AMD Sledgehammer. An AMD FX Sledgehammer.
There's a Peter Gabriel joke in here somewhere.
You're my sledgehammer. Oh dear. But yes, Dying Landshark had a question about which AMD CPU should his sister get. Their sister. I do apologise. I needlessly gendered you. I do apologise.
Doing graphics design, what AMD CPU?
Yes.
Yeah. The
budget. What's the budget?
Yeah. The biggest Ryzen you can afford, realistically. Is the 3800X still crazy price, or did that go back up again?
I guess it went back up, but I would say basically what you're looking at is the
317.
The 3600 non-X. Or the 3800. Was there a 3800 non-X? I can't remember.
I don't think so. Or if there is, I don't think anyone cares.
Yeah, or the 3800X. You want to avoid the XTs just because they don't give you anything, but they cost a lot more. Depressingly. So it's kind of on that front. It depends on what your budget is and how much you can spend.
Yeah.
If you've got a smaller budget, 3600. If you've got a bigger budget, get the 3800X.
1,000 Canadian dollars. So I've just quickly bashed that. That looks to be about 580 to 600 pounds, that kind of area. So for that, I'd be looking at a 3600.
Yeah.
So Ryzen it is a Ryzen 5 to 3600, isn't it?
Ryzen 5 3600.
Yeah, Ryzen 5 3600, and a modest graphics card, and 16 gigs of RAM, because RAM prices are still crazy low, and they're not going to go up anytime soon because RAM is massively in oversupply.
Yeah, absolutely.
So RAM is cheap. Now is a good time to buy RAM.
Yeah, well, it's a case that there is the possibility that it might actually be dipping slightly lower because of the fact that it's still in continued oversupply. So we might actually see consumer pricing go down.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
A little bit more.
Yeah,
still.
Probably
so
not enough to make you not enough to make you cry, I doubt.
No, absolutely. But it's a case of now is a good time, but it's not a case of now is the best time. But yeah, it's a case of the price may continue to tick lower by a few pounds, dollars, what have you, over time. So yeah, it's good.
Yeah,
absolutely. And then what was I going to say? Oh yes, also apparently a NAND flash is also in oversupply as well.
Oh really?
So SSD prices may creep back down a little bit because they were creeping up again by a few pounds here and there on certainly on the slightly nicer models.
I've observed them being fairly stable, except for the dip on Amazon Prime Day where I bought a crap ton of SSDs, and that was awesome. But yeah, I thought that'd be going up because one of Samsung's foundries went down, didn't it? And Samsung's one of Samsung's NAND factories went down for like 13 minutes, and it meant that it'd take them a month to reboot the factory or something like that. And everyone thought that it was going to destroy the market.
Year. That was end of last year. That was end of last year, beginning of this year. Yeah, it was like 9-10 months ago.
Damn.
If
2020's been crazy, man.
I can't remember if it was Samsung.
I thought that was recent.
I can't remember if it was Samsung or Micron. But someone's,
they
had a power cut.
Yeah.
A power cut lasting 13 minutes, and they said they expected the plant to be operational again 8 to 10 months later. From a 13-minute power cut.
Yeah. Oof. The biggest of oofs.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a bit mad.
Yeah. £100 for 64 gigs of RAM. That's crazy. You don't need 64 gigs of RAM in a gaming computer. I'm just going to say that now.
No, absolutely.
However,
but certainly
at face value, that's crazy.
Yeah, and certainly the case that I know Teltec's using it for.
Yeah.
Because he is doing a lot of docking.
I'm going to validate the price because DNA Electronics disagrees.
It's a lot of using Docker. There we go. That is a significantly safer version of that.
Yeah. No, I also call bull crap on that because I've just Amazoned that and 64 gigs of DDR4 ain't 100 quid. Where are you getting that from, Teltac? Where are you getting that? That's twice the price on Amazon right now. Like, even if we go hunting, you're not going to get that down to 100 quid. Like, you might find something at just shy of 200, but I don't know where you're getting 100 quid from. 100 quid for 32 gigs of RAM, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, 32 gigs of RAM, you could find that at £100.
Yeah.
Oh, he's going to check his receipt. Because he's checking his receipt, everyone.
Yeah, because he bought 32 gig and he's been a numpty.
Yeah. That's it, we're calling it now. You bought 32 gigs. Either that or he thinks he's got 64. But he's bought it from China and it's just actually 32 gigs with a 64 gig written on it with a Sharpie. So...
Oh, no. Yes, absolutely. Oh, no.
You bought two times... So you bought two times 32 gigs at £100 each. Is that what happened? So £200 total.
Or it's cheap Chinese RAM, which is like cheap Chinese SSDs. Where they say they are 1 terabyte, and you send 6 gigs of data, and then it just overwrites itself. So in actual fact, your RAM is just continuously overwriting itself, and you just get memory errors up the wazoo.
He bought an N64 for £100.
Or perhaps it was an N64 Mini.
Oh no. Oof. The biggest oof.
So I have to plug in the HDMI for the extra RAM, right?
Smokey, help my power supply blow. Bought a new one, but I'm getting no power to my motherboard. What can I do? Oof. It sounds like it might have blown up your motherboard as well. You're going to have to swap out to a different motherboard to find out. That's the only way to know. Sometimes when it comes to diagnostics, the only way of figuring out what happened is just to swap out components and figure it out by process of elimination. There's lots of people out there who will be like, oh, buy a diagnostic PCI card and stuff like that. I've got one, they're crap. When you've got a no power situation, it will not help you. It'll tell you if there's a component plugged into the computer that's screwing up. However, if your motherboard is toast, then your PCI slots probably are not initializing. So yeah.
And if you still have PCI slots.
Yeah. If you're getting far enough for your PCI diagnostic card to work, you're 90% of the way to victory already.
Yeah.
So yeah. You're gonna need to swap out that motherboard, I'm afraid. Isn't there a light on the motherboard? The lights on the motherboard might help if you got any signs of life. However, if you're pressing the power button and nothing is happening with a known good power supply, your motherboard is probably cactus. Or rarely CPU. It's never the CPU, except when it is. Yes. But it's never the CPU, except when it is. It's probably the motherboard. So just
absolutely.
We got anything else interesting in here? I'm going to scan the chat while you think of another topic.
Absolutely. I mean, there's lots of stuff on there, but I think I still kind of want to do the let's buy the cheapest SSDs we can find from like Banggood and AliExpress.
I don't. Why do you think that would be interesting?
Just because I don't think they're gonna be trash. I think they're actually gonna. Especially considering my expectation is it's going to be better than a hard drive. and it's £17 for like 64 gig.
Yeah, it will be, but it doesn't mean that it's something that you actually want to buy. And because that's the thing, the experiment doesn't work unless the result is this is actually something that you could purchase and put in your gaming computer if you're poor, kind of thing. That's the result that we're looking for. And like, to put things in perspective, I've got like, I mean, case in point, hang on a minute, this is a perfect example, this boy here. This is a 1.8 inch SSD. Hands up in the chat who knows what that is.
Is it by any chance an SSD that's 1.8 inches?
It's designed to replace a 1.8 inch hard drive. Hands up in the chat who knows what one of those is.
A hard drive that's 1.8 inches?
Anyway, the point is, this was a really cheap one from eBay. And again, these are I mean, this is an old SSD, I'll give you that. It's an early SSD. So I suppose the interesting thing, well, the problem is basically the transfer speed on them is like 150 megs per second, and your 4K ops are probably, maybe 5 to 10 megs per second. So for SSDs, they're awful. They are quicker. I can't get this damn thing open because it's crap. They are faster than hard drives. However, it's very much a case of no, just pay another £10 more and get a brand name SSD, and you'll get something that is an order of magnitude quicker. That's the problem is, you've got something that's crazy cheap. There we go. It's a SATA LIF. So, this was an example of... this is an example of really cheap SSDs that you can buy from China, because I used to buy these for putting in first and second gen MacBook Airs. And the amount of time it's taken me to open this has completely negated me telling this story. It's stuck in it. Okay. This has failed. This whole bit that I'm doing, this whole thing has failed. It's fallen flat in its face.
Your tirade has been derailed.
Yeah. I'm abandoning this. Okay. Anyway, the point is, I agree that there are some crazy cheap SSDs that you can buy, and even owing to the fact that they're not going to have a DRAM cache and stuff like that, so they're not going to be very quick. But the point is it something that you could actually put in a gaming PC and use? And it's like, yes, but you're better off spending literally £10 more, and you could have a Crucial BX or something like that.
Which is also a DRAM-less SSD.
Yeah, but it's... Okay, I tell you what, the interesting thing would be, would a cheap Chinese DRAM-less SSD compare versus something like a Crucial BX? That would be an interesting test. But I also feel like I could literally just Google search the answer to that.
I don't know. Well, I've no idea, because I don't know if anyone's actually done it. That's kind of the point as well.
Yeah.
So yes. So
yeah, maybe.
I don't know. I think in
yeah. The other thing as well is, as DNA Electronics just pointed out, the MX500 right now is really good value for money. The MX500 is basically one of the best SATA SSDs money can buy, and it's the same price as the BX series right now. Like the MX500s are what I have in stock in the shop right now, because I'm buying them because they're crazy good bang for buck, and I really just feel like it's just like, why would you use anything else unless you're buying, like, someone else is just like, Samsung SSD all the way. Absolutely, they're the fastest, but they're also twice the price. Yeah. They're double the price of an MX500. Yeah. And for the vast majority of users won't know the difference, and you can take that to the bank, kind of thing.
As perfectly proven by LTT doing that video.
Yeah.
Where they had 4 otherwise identical computers, where they had some half decent SATA SSD, some good PCIe Gen 3 NVMe SSD, and some ultra good blazing fast PCIe Gen 4 SSD. And they basically went to people, blind test which one is which.
Yeah.
And no one got it. No one was confident in getting it right. I think one person managed to successfully guess 2 of them, sort of thing.
And that was probably more by luck.
Yeah, exactly. Well, they were guessing.
Yeah.
So yeah,
that's just it. With the 4 machines they had there, your odds of guessing it correctly by pure luck were pretty good. Even then, even the people, even the person who got it right was just like, oh, hey, I got it right, but man, I could take any one of these home and I wouldn't care. You know?
Exactly.
So it's That much being said, of course, the time when that falls apart is, I shouldn't have leant forward. The
Back.
time when the time when that falls apart, I do need to shift though because my ass is going numb. The time when that falls apart is if you've got a computer with multiple SSDs in it and you're transferring information between SSDs, suddenly you're going to care. Like I've got 2 SSDs in my computer at home and I shunt video back and forth between them. My raw video sits on a data drive and then I move it onto my C drive for when I'm actually doing editing. So obviously at that point, going between 2 SSDs, the faster my SSDs go, the less time I'm waiting before I actually start working on that video. So at that point, it is going to make a difference. But then on the other hand, like, you know, for my use case, even if I'm getting transfers of, you know, even if I'm limited by SATA and I'm transferring at 500 megs per second, that's still pretty amazing. Although I tell you,
absolutely.
I did something amazing yesterday. There's a computer that I've been working on this week, a rebuild, and the last minute with the customer waiting, I needed to image their 500 gig Samsung 970 Evo onto a 1 terabyte Samsung 970 Evo. There was 400 gigabytes of data. Mm-hmm. We imaged, so I used Clonezilla. I imaged 400 gigs worth of SSD data to another SSD in 4 minutes. 4 minutes, and I'd imaged 400 gigs of data between 2 drives, swapped them over, and the computer was going out the door.
Yeah.
Like on a hard drive, I'd say come back tomorrow. And this was done in 4 minutes flat, and I was like, that's astonishing. It was transferring over a gigabyte of data every second. Yeah. It was crazy.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
It was so quick because the customer was waiting, and I was looking at the time and going, do I need to send this man away? He's travelled to get here, and like I saw the time, I'm like, we're going to be no worries, sir. We're going to be done in a couple of minutes. You know, absolutely astonishing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Crucial P1 is DRAMless. It uses S cache.
Host cache.
Host cache, yes.
Thingy, which can provision some of the system RAM.
It's a poor man's cache.
It works reasonably well.
It's fine, yeah. I have an Intel 660p in my computer at home, which is basically the same as a Crucial P1. It's exactly the same technology. And on large transfers, yes, your transfer speed crashes. I'm talking like actual crash. And it is it's not great. However, as a burst speed SSD for like a gaming computer where you're not transferring chunks of data around all the time, completely fine. Yeah.
That will also possibly be in a case of certainly if it was a write operation. Don't forget that those SSDs are QLC. Yeah. Which will mean that there'll be an SLC cache.
SLC cache, that's
and when you have used up the SLC cache, the speed will then tank down to the actual write speed of QLC. Yeah. So, it's kind of that. Yeah. The write endurance of QLC is lower than anything that's gone before it. Yeah. However, how many home users do you know of that are writing more than 100 gigs a day? Yeah. How many do you know who are writing more than 50 gigs a day?
Yeah, that's the thing.
It's kind of a case of the endurance doesn't matter.
The specs of the P1 and QLC drives are really not very good. However, they're perfectly fine for the vast majority of home users. Yeah. And a lot of people forget that just because there's something better out there doesn't mean that the lower end product is not fit for purpose. Yeah, absolutely. And again, it's very easy to say to people, oh, but the Samsung is this much faster. It's like, the Samsung is twice the price. Yeah. And when you're talking about like the Crucial P1 1 terabyte, it's about £100. Yeah. And like I said, the Samsung is like 170 or something like that. You know, it's another £70. Yeah. And when you're building a computer, that's the difference between being able to afford that 1660 Super or having to get a 1650 Ti or something like that, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, or it's a case of you go, I can buy this Samsung 1 terabyte, or I can buy the Crucial 2 terabyte.
Yeah, all that.
You can basically double your storage. Yeah. And at which point the endurance becomes less of a concern.
Yeah. So it's a question on what your budget is and what your requirements are. So, and that's the thing. Write endurance, absolutely, the write endurance isn't great, but most home users, they're not rinsing their SSDs anyway. So, really not an issue.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, for some people it might be an issue. That's the thing. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that this isn't a problem, but it's not an issue that the vast majority of users will actually face.
Yes, absolutely, and I think it might be something that might show up when. Oh, I've literally just forgotten what it's called. The direct access thingy.
Oh, I don't know the name of it, but I know what you're talking about. The thing that the new consoles are using.
The direct storage access on the graphics card thing, which is part of DX12 Ultimate and stuff like that. That thing that will speed up accessing and decompressing files and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
So, yes, when that happens, we might start seeing a difference between SATA SSDs and PCIe Gen 4 ones.
Yeah.
But I imagine we're not really going to see much of a difference between the Gen 3 and the Gen 4 ones.
To paraphrase that, one of the big deals about the upcoming console generation, specifically the PS5 had a lot of hype with this, is that the graphics card in the next gen consoles, and invariably the next gen PCs at some point and stuff like that, in the next gen consoles, the graphics card will be able to directly get data from the SSD instead of having to, whereas normally the CPU has to fetch the data and then push it to the graphics card. So obviously having the graphics card being able to load textures directly off of the SSD, kind of a big deal. But the issue is that requires the games to be programmed to use that and stuff like that. It requires a paradigm shift in how games are developed to actually use it. Yeah. And it could be absolutely amazing, but it requires people to actually use it as well. So theoretically amazing. Whether or not we're actually going to see it used anytime soon, another question entirely.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's a case that, with that, it's something that will come, and the new consoles having it is nothing but a good thing.
Yeah.
And also the fact they're moving off of Jaguar APU cores to, they're moving on to an actual CPU, not a calculator.
Yes.
So that's going to be good. And yes, just the massive increases throughout the board for the CPU side is, absolutely what I'm looking forward to. And it was, I was watching some Digital Foundry content the other day, and they were saying, it's much, much easier to scale on the graphics side, to scale down the resolution, to scale down the texture quality, things like that, to match a lower GPU. It's very difficult to scale a game across CPU. To go, on this one, I've got a X CPU that can, say, do 50% of the performance of a Y CPU. You can't reduce your CPU load by 50%. Whereas on the graphics side, you can reduce it by 50, 60, 70%.
Yeah,
you can go dynamic resolution scaling. You can go from 4K to, 560p. You can go from, 4K textures to teeny tiny crappy 16K textures. Stuff like that. You can do all of this scaling in between. You can turn off shadows, stuff like that. So there is so much range on that. And it's good that we've got a generation of consoles with actually good CPUs in, and CPUs that are actually good compared with the best computer CPUs as well.
Yeah.
So
fair enough.
With that. So
Brian Kirby, thanks for the $4 super chat, dude. And I'm out of coffee. I want tea now. We've got a bit to go yet, but I'm ready for a tea when we finish this. I'm going to have some of that. But yes, greatly appreciated.
Yeah, absolutely. So, yes. Sorry, no, I was just going to say, someone was saying about, is it possible to limit the VRAM on a graphics card because of the Chinese scam, blah, blah, blahs. Basically, the answer to that is you'll need to reflash the BIOS on the card back to being a GT520?
Yeah.
Because I think they're all GT520s or 430s. You'll need to find someone who has modified a BIOS to flash onto the messed up BIOS setup of that card, and then flash that BIOS onto it. It's possible, it's doable.
But don't.
I would say for the level of hassle of doing that, unless you're wanting to learn that stuff, buy a second-hand RX 4600. Buy a second-hand GT 750.
Yeah.
Just buy a second-hand something cheap that's 50 quid from eBay or equivalent.
Basically those graphics cards, you could probably do something interesting with it, but it wouldn't be worth it outside of the academic experience.
Yeah.
Like if you want to mess about with hardware and mess about with BIOS flashing and stuff like that, knock yourself out. Yeah. If you just want a graphics card that works, just buy a graphics card that works in the first place, basically.
Yeah, absolutely.
And as I say, second-hand either the ones that Caradog just listed or like secondhand RX 570s, they're still viable. And you can probably pick them up for nothing because people think that the RX 500 series is dead and buried, but they're still decent graphics cards.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think just the point of also just reconfirming the actual performance of the reflashed fake 1050s and 1060s and so on. The fact that it's a GT, 530 or whatever, it's a case of basically the performance you're getting is like 60% of Intel integrated graphics from the 10th gen CPUs.
Oh god, yeah. Where were we talking about integrated graphics? Did we talk about that last week? I think we did, didn't we?
Probably.
Yeah.
And it was a case of it was on the Discord as well.
Yeah.
But it was just like the fact of you will get better performance just using the integrated graphics on a 10th gen Intel CPU.
Yeah, when you get down to the bottom end, you start getting dangerously close to integrated levels of performance, and it starts getting to the point where it's not financially viable to bother running a graphics card at all. Kind of
absolutely.
Thing. And this is why sub £100 and like sub $150 graphics cards don't exist, because you start getting dangerously close to integrated performance.
Yeah.
So it was a waste of money buying a card in the first place.
Yeah,
but yeah, Michael Taylor, thank you very much for the $25. I'm glad we were helpful. Much appreciated, my dude.
Yeah,
much
absolutely.
appreciated. Yeah. What else is going on?
Someone talking about restoring partitions on a now RAWed drive.
Oh, right, yeah. Can
and
you see that on screen?
It's a little way back. I believe it was Arnold.
Arnold G.
It might have been. I can't remember. I do apologise. I couldn't remember who it was, but someone was talking about it.
Oh, there it is. Can I ask, what would cause an SSD HDD to go into a raw state? Noel Dowds.
Oh, that was it.
Yeah, Noel Dowds. There's HDDs and SSDs. Firstly, I'm going to separate that out into HDDs and SSDs as a separate thing. If your SSD drops into a raw state, what you want to do is, if it's still showing the amount of storage that the SSD has, then treat it in the same way that I'm going to answer the hard drive side of it. If you've got an SSD that has gone uninitialized and it does not report the capacity, 9 times out of 10 the SSD is dead. If you've got an SSD where Windows or your operating system is unable to determine the size of it and it's showing it as a 0 megabyte drive, that SSD is almost certainly dead. Happened to one of my SSDs this week. Then if it's showing as raw, but it shows like, a 512 SSD that is raw, or you've got a hard drive that has gone raw, probably just the partition table is corrupted, and you want to use a program called Test Disk. If you look up I did a recent video about a lucky save on a hard drive. I'm going to quickly look it up.
Click to back up.
Yeah,
literally the caddy right there.
Yeah, let me see. I need to search my own channels and I will quickly link it in. I did a video where I demonstrated the use of Test Disk to recover a drive that was stuck in a raw format.
Yeah, absolutely.
I need Studio.
And quickly, whilst someone is saying that just about getting graphics cards off of Wish, basically 110% guaranteed it will be fake, it will be a pile of crap. Do not waste your money, do not do it.
Do not pass go, do not collect $200.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's the same with the very, very cheap versions of the graphics cards on like eBay.
Shut up.
For like the very cheap 1050 Ti's and the very cheap 1060s, they will just be faked and reflashed, blah 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 blah. So don't bother. Don't do it. Also, it depends on how much. If you want to get a 1050 Ti for video editing, depends on what the cost is, because it might also be a case that you can get something like a 1660 non-super or a 1650 super for much the same price, and it will just be a case of it will be a new graphics card by comparison. So, yeah, I would personally prefer to buy the newer generation card than buy a older generation card that was a similar price, even if the performance was much the same, just because of random architectural improvements and fluffy bits they'll chuck on.
Yeah. RG IHD managed to get a real one from Wish. There's probably some real ones up there.
Yeah.
However, just the ratio of real versus fake is going to be horrifying.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, yeah, if you want to roll those dice, feel free to. But,
yeah, absolutely.
If you get a single wrong one, you may end up losing the amount of money it would have cost to buy one from a reputable source in the first place.
Yeah, absolutely.
So yeah, I've just linked in the video where I demonstrate, I'm recovering a hard drive, but if you look through that, I do demonstrate the use of test disk to recover the partitions on that drive. So that'll show you the gist of what you can do with test disk to recover a drive that's in a raw state. Really, really cool program, test disk. It's worth having had a look at it. You can use it to recover flash drives as well. Really common thing. A lot of people, they pull out their flash drives without ejecting them first or safely dismounting. And they come in and they go, my flash drive is saying it's not formatted and I've lost all my data. Test disk will often recover that in a couple of minutes. So yeah, very, very powerful program.
Yeah.
That was that. Use that video to save a couple of drives since you put it out. Oh, there we go. Thank you very much, Irish Bull. Very handy.
Yes, so...
am I going to try for a 3070? I'll have a look. If I see any on sale that are in stock, I might buy a couple just to have in stock in the shop, and I'll use them somewhere. I know at least one person who would probably take one off my hands. But yeah. if they are released and immediately flash out of stock, I will shrug and get on with my life. Which,
to be honest, is the response that you should have.
Yeah.
Because it's a consumer electronic device.
Yeah.
So
you really like answering my questions over 10 so far. Either you're asking really good questions or you're getting lucky. So you're probably asking good questions though, because as I say, the better a question looks, the more likely I am to answer it.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm looking forward to the AMD reveal.
And yes, you can ask an off-topic question as well. I may not answer it, but feel free to try. Looking forward to the AMD reveal. Yeah.
Yes, on the 28th.
When's that again? 28th.
Yes.
Oh yeah, so that's 4 days away.
Wednesday. I think it's on Wednesday. It should be something like that. Calendars, how do they work? But anyway,
yes,
I'm looking forward to that, and I'm really, really hoping they say that the availability of them will be the 5th of November, the same as Zen 3 stuff, so people can go, new AMD graphics card, new AMD processors for my new AMD computer. I'm hoping that people will be able to do that. It will, satisfy that requirement.
God.
Yes. I imagine, though, if there is a 6900 XT or equivalent type thing, that they probably won't launch at the same time. That one will get delayed till end of November, maybe next year. So that's what I'm very much guessing. And that's purely speculation, and I have absolutely no basis for that. But that's kind of what I would do if I was AMD, especially if the leaks via Igor's Lab are accurate on the 6800 XT trading blows and beating the 3800. I mean, if it beats the 3800, that also means that it is, 50% faster than the 2080 Ti?
Yeah.
Which then means that they have doubled their performance. It's 200% performant of a 5700 XT.
Yeah, that's massive.
And that is massive. That is an incredible generational improvement.
Will we get benchmarks before release? I reckon they're going to show some numbers on the announcement.
AMD first-party numbers, which we will take with a mountain of salt.
Yeah. But that much being said, NVIDIA, obviously, they released their first-party numbers when they announced the 30 series, and while they were flattered, should we say?
They were flattering, yes.
Yeah, but they were not wrong. They said it would be within these kinds of boundaries, and that's exactly what we got. So it's AMD will put out first-party numbers. They will probably not be real performance, but it's going to give us a pretty good idea. If they say that it trades blows with a 3080, it's going to trade blows with a 3080.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's what I would expect from them. And I would love them to release, I would love to see third-party numbers before release day, but that's just not the meta we're in these days, so I doubt we will.
I imagine that we'll get the actual official announcement, and then there will be reviews that happen just before sales start. That's what I would imagine. And it will be like if sales start on the 5th, that the reviews will be allowed to be released on the 4th.
Yeah.
That's what I'm kind of presuming. Yeah. But I have zero evidence for that. Although, interestingly, there was, from some Linux kernel merges, comments that AMD is going to release a new mining GPU. based off of Navi 10.
Okay.
So
Yeah,
it's going to be basically a 5700 XT without the VCN or DCN, which basically means it'll have no display outputs.
Yeah.
But it'll be a 5700 XT for mining.
There's still a market for that, so yeah,
that'll
power
be,
to them.
Yeah, that'll be very interesting.
Yeah.
And again, kind of want one. Dependent on what the pricing is like.
I'm not interested in mine. I want to get into cryptocurrency, not because I'm going to make a fortune on it, but just because I want to get in and understand it, and I want to have a horse in the race.
Yeah.
Even if I've just stuck £100 into some coins or something.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I've got no interest in trying to mine it myself.
Yeah, I don't want it for mining. Again, I want it for the folding at home, for the protein stuff.
That's a good idea. Yeah.
That's what I'm interested in, to see if it's worth it for that.
Yeah.
I also want to see. I can find nothing. Words. It's amazing to me how it appears that nobody has done any sort of reviews for folding at home performance for modern graphics cards.
I hate to say it. This is going to sound horrible, but no one cares. Is what I think the answer to that is.
But I'm amazed that no one cares out of 7 billion people when their forum is very active.
That's true.
If that makes sense.
Yeah.
I'm amazed that there is no one
Yeah.
who is interested enough to give even remotely scientific numbers.
Yeah. Yeah, that's fair enough.
So it's that's what surprises me.
Yeah. I'm going to roll back and answer a couple of questions. I think some of the people in chat have already answered it, but John Dell, who super chatted earlier on, I'm going to answer his question because he super chatted earlier on. He said, is it worth spending £100 more for a 2060 over a 1660X? I'm not sure if... do you mean 1660 Super or TI? Or I'm
Probably
not sure.
based off of where the keys are on the keyboard.
Oh yes, yep, 1660 Super, yeah. Do you know the answer to that one? Because we were talking about this the other day.
I think my answer to that is it depends on whether you care about ray tracing.
Yeah.
I think is roughly the answer.
And if you want ray tracing, I don't think you want to... the 2060s ray tracing is kind of a party trick rather than actually useful.
I would say if you're wanting ray tracing, the 2060S, the 2060S is the minimum you really should be looking at, so you can get away with 1080p ray tracing.
And that's going to be even more.
Which is going to be about... I think it's about 420, 430-ish for the 2060S.
I think the answer to that is the 2060 is faster, but I think the 1660 Super is going to be better value for money.
I think so, loosely overall. I've not checked numbers.
Yeah. Personally, I think the 2060 is in a bit of a no man's land at the moment, where there are better value cards that are slightly lower, and if you've got more money, then you may as well start looking. You may as well hold out for a 3070 or something like that.
Yeah. I was going to say, last time I looked, the 2060 standard was about £270, £260, which then makes the 1660 hopefully somewhere in the region of £170, £180.
That sounds about right.
Which is roughly about right. And for that, I would say that probably it's not worth going up.
Yeah, I would go 1660 Super if I were building that. And yeah, again, this is assuming that you're like 1080p gaming.
Absolutely.
Let me see. Tony Hiltunen, thank you very much for the €5. Thanks, guys, for doing these live talk sessions. Thank you very much for tuning in. We've been having a blast with these so far.
Yeah, absolutely.
We're having a blast with these, and we're going to keep doing them. We will be trying to continually improve them. I am just crazy busy at the moment, which is making it... I'm having a hard time making the time to put in the production that we want to get on these, getting the membership sorted out, getting this podcast up and stuff like that, but I will be doing it in time. There was something else I saw as well. Oh, yeah. I also wanted to say, Chris Luizu, I'm sorry if I'm butchering your name, said, I paid £50 for an A2000. That's the Kingston A2000 NVMe SSD. That guy has a budget price tag and a NAND cache on it.
Oh, really?
It does appear to be crazy good value for money. I keep forgetting it exists. However, every time someone has said, hey, there's a suspiciously cheap Kingston SSD here, is it any good? And I look up the specs on it and I'm like, apparently it is. Yeah. So
interesting. Yeah. I've not seen
Yeah, apparently it is as good as it looks. So yeah.
I've not actually seen any reviews of Kingston SSDs recently.
Yeah.
So yeah.
John Famlaw, 3070 is a senseless card, 3080 is the bare minimum for no fuss next gen gaming. I disagree, man. The 3080 is a flagship card. Like I'm gaming on a 1070 at the moment, and I'm getting on just fine.
It will be 100% performance uplift.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. The 3080 is obviously going to be faster, but I think the 3070 is going to be entirely a viable card to buy.
Sorry, the 3070.
Yeah.
To your 1070. I don't know. I don't know where I'd pitch that. I've no idea what the performance is going to be. But
yes, but
my
point
I misheard what you said.
I certainly don't think I suppose that the potentially the counter argument is I've just been saying how the 2070 is kind of in no man's land at the moment.
Well, the 2060.
Sorry, the 2060. Yeah, sorry, the 2060 is in no man's land. But I think the 3070 is actually going to be possibly one of the best bang for buck, like buy this graphics card, and for the vast majority of people, because obviously the vast majority of people are either 1080p or 1440p.
Well, actually, by numbers, the majority of gamers are on 1366, 768 or 1080p.
Yeah, exactly. So they don't even need that.
So a 1650 is good enough.
Yeah. So let's be really generous and say, for the power gamers who are looking for 1440p, 3070 is going to demolish that. So buy the cheaper card. Why you're not going to need a 3080 unless you're looking for either crazy good 1440p performance, like 360 hertz 1440p, or if you're doing 4K. I would wager. So, I mean, obviously, you buy what's practical for you. This isn't me going, you're wrong, But I think there's going to be a big market for the 3070.
Absolutely, yeah. And I'm again interested because of its reasonably low price compared to the previous series, and the performance uplifts we've seen from the 3080 and 3090 compared to previous products of the same naming category, but not necessarily certainly the pricing category, because obviously if you go by pricing category, the performance uplift is even greater.
Yeah, I was about to say, this is of course assuming that we're buying at the price that NVIDIA intends it to be at, and that's what John just replied, saying if it could be at its MSRP.
Yeah.
But
absolutely. Well, you can't really base it off of anything else at this point, because it's not a launched product.
Yeah. We'll have to see what it looks like when it comes out and it's settled, I guess. So yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the other thing that might be of interest with it is just the fact of obviously it means you can get away with a 500 watt power supply. Because you're not going to see random spikes to like 500 watts from your GPU. So, yeah. Yeah. Well, we shall see. I think it's going to depend on country as well, because I mean, obviously in the US it's more economical, but once you pay tax and stuff in the UK, it comes out more expensive, etc., etc. I think absolutely. I'm more or less up to date at the moment, so yeah. Yeah, absolutely. It's I don't know. I'm interested. I'm very much waiting for the AMD stuff to see what the AMD stuff looks like before decisions either way, irrespective of actual sale pricing.
At this point, we're so close to the launch of the AMD card now that it would be foolish to not wait for it. So yeah, I'm building my mate's computer. He's been waiting 3 months. We're building it tomorrow. We're going to stick the 1660 Super that I've got in that Era Cool box over there in it for now, and he's just going to run that card. Sorry, it's the 1660 Ti. He's going to run that card until one of the next gen cards is actually available in stock at a reasonable price. Yeah, basically. Because that card is that'll see him fine until one of the cards is actually available. Yeah, so, exactly. Can you put a Crucial in a USB 3 case and use it on a PS4? Yes, you can. Yeah. In short. Not got anything to add, but enjoying the conversation. Cool stuff. Nice to see you around, Andy. Entertainment. You guys stockpiling products before 2021 Brexit? No. I can't really afford to stockpile per se, and it won't. You'd need to be warehouse size for that to really work out. I think. I don't think a small or even a medium business can stockpile in any meaningful way. For me, and plus also like the thing for me is I don't pay the cost of parts. My customers pay the cost of parts. True. So like when SSDs go up in price, my customers pay more. Yeah. Now, I would like my customers to be paying less. I like it when prices are cheap because it means I can do more for the customer at a lower price. Yeah. But ultimately, it's not me paying for it. And so, and when they come in and they go, oh, that seems really expensive, I can be like, yeah, that's because Brexit sucks. That's what happens.
Something politics.
Yeah, exactly. I'm not going to go any further into it than that because we're going to get into a debate. However, suffice to say, as far as I'm concerned, come what may, I'm not the one who's got to pay for that. Yeah. It might stay the same. It might go up. We're not going to know. No,
absolutely. Yeah.
So,
I think it's going to make it interesting with buying stuff from like German companies. Like EK or AlphaCool.
Oh yeah.
Because obviously that's particularly niche, but relevant because I was looking at AlphaCool's website yesterday going, I'm going to buy an awful lot of stuff from you in the next couple of days. But yes, and it's just a case of I imagine that it's going to make the pricing really bad on that front. But yeah, I was just looking at their stuff and I'm thinking, I'm probably going to buy an awful lot of your B-grade stock and just use B-grade stock and fix that up. Because it's just stuff like, a couple of the items on there, they're just like, this radiator has scratches on the end tanks. Oh no, it's scratched. And it's like, price now, €19. Original retail price, €75.
Oof,
And I'm just like, for a couple of scratches on the end tank that I'm not going to see when it's screwed in a case, hell yes, I'm going to take €19.
B stock can be amazing, man. I've bought B stock from Amazon quite a few times. Where you look at Amazon, and it's got new and used cheaper at a lower cost. And sometimes you can save 10 or 20% off the cost. And the used item, it says it has a scratch on the front of it, and it's like a motherboard or something. And I've bought those before, and they're open box. But you look at the board, and you're like, I don't see any scratches anywhere on this. And I paid 20 quid less for it, Yeah, so absolutely. It's great. What's up, Sunkinich? How you doing, by the way? The 3060 is delayed because they use 3080 chips with defects. Yeah, that makes sense. That's how binning works. Doesn't surprise me.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's the way the market works. It's not a bad thing.
I would also imagine that considering the hype, considering how much issue there has been with supply, that we're not even going to see an announcement of a NVIDIA 3060 until like August.
Yeah, like August next year.
Yeah. Well, it's not going to be this year.
Yeah. Well, the thing, the low to mid. I mean, at the end of the day, the 3060 is going to be targeting the low end market. I'm talking sub $300.
Yeah.
And the low end market, there's a lot of players in there at the moment.
Yeah.
Like, again, the 1660 Super is a great graphics card. We don't need a replacement for that right now.
Not specifically, no.
Not specifically, because the kind of people who are using those graphics cards are probably targeting 1080p, which the 1660 Super can smash anyway. So obviously, I'd like to see a 3060 because I would love to see the product stack get fixed. So we just have a 3060, 3070, 3080, and none of this bullcrap that we've got with the 16 series, and everyone's just like, what's the 16 series? And we're like, it's kind of like a 20 series, but not, and it's, I would like to see the product stack gets fixed so it's clearer, but we don't actually need it at the moment. So 3060 is not going to be below $300. No, it's probably going to be like $350 or something like that, because the 3070 is going to be, what, $450 we reckon?
I can't remember. I think
$400 maybe?
I can't remember. I actually genuinely can't remember. I have no idea.
Yeah.
But
I'm not sure.
I would.
And again, it's hard to tell because with stock being what it is, we don't have any idea what prices are going to be at the moment.
I mean, they could very easily come out with the 3060 and say it is £700, but it's in stock. And people would buy it because it's actually in stock.
3070 is $500. Oh, yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's true. So, the 3060 is probably going to be closer to $400. Yeah, $400 then. But even then, it can't go... the 3060 could not go any higher than $400. Otherwise, people are going to be like, the amount of extra performance I get for another $100 is going to make the 3070 more worth it.
Yeah, and I think the best thing with this is we don't even know when the 3070 is actually even going to get launched.
No, I mean, this is
because it just got randomly pulled a few days before launch.
As said, this is baseless speculation. But OC UK have it listed for $15,550. OC UK can sod off, quite frankly, right now. Yeah. They're taking money for a product and they have no idea when they're going to have that product.
Yeah.
They have no idea if they will ever get that product.
Yeah.
And, both me and Caradog are pretty salty about it. I mean, it doesn't matter to us. It's not our money they've got.
Yeah.
However, like Scan and people like that are saying, no, we don't have this. It's out of stock.
Yeah.
However, OC UK are sitting there taking people's hard-earned for a product, and they have no idea when they're going to, if they will even be able to fulfill that order.
Yeah, absolutely. And the thing that annoys me the most as well is the fact that they took pre-orders for it before the stock got released effectively.
Yeah.
At the price.
Yeah.
At say £700.
Yeah.
Or no. What was the 3080 supposed to be?
The
£600?
the recommended retail price.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then they took those orders and charged those orders at £800. People went pre-order at 600 and got charged 800.
Oof.
And shipped the cards after charging people at 800.
No.
And it's like, no, that's actually basically fraud now.
Yeah. No.
And I'm like,
And
OC UK, you weren't shitty with pre-ordering until like last year.
Yeah.
Why have you suddenly become this weird, scummy, money-sucking company?
Yeah, because at that point, like, what are they? What are they gambling that people are going to say? Well, I now have the hottest card on the planet. I'll quite happily pay $200 for the privilege because I could probably sell it at a profit anyway. And then OC UK are just like, that's exactly what we were banking on. You're not going to send this back and get you because we overcharge you by £200 because you've got the hottest card on the planet. And it's just, no, get out of here.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm having nothing to do with that. I'm having nothing to do with
it's so annoying because I want options that aren't Amazon for buying PC parts in the UK.
Yeah.
I don't want to buy from Amazon, ultimately.
Yeah.
Because I want to be able to go to Scan, I want to be able to go to eBay, I want to go to Aria, I want to go to Box. I want to go to OC UK and I want to buy parts from them and I want them to be good prices and I want them to compete with each other, etc., yada, yada, yada. Because it's not Amazon. And based on what I've seen, based on stories from people I know of who've worked there, they've treated their staff well. They have warehouse staff, of course. The warehouse staff aren't paid much, but they're actually paid. They're allowed toilet breaks. They're allowed a lunch.
Yeah, that's
which is
fair.
more than can be said for Amazon most of the time.
Yeah.
So it's like...
Yeah. For me, Amazon makes sense because because Prime delivery is invaluable to me. Not just for the quick turnaround, but the fact that I can just, throughout the day, I can just keep placing orders at random and they will just group it all together. Whereas for most other people, I have to wait until the end of the day before I place my order in case I want anything else and stuff like that. And it's inconvenient. For me as a business, that's annoying. As an individual, I would probably put up with it. But before we spiral off onto that, there's a couple of interesting things I want to check in. Matthew Langtree said, I cancelled my pre-order with Overclockers. Took him a week to refund. Dermot Sweeney said, I cancelled my OC UK 3080 order. How long were you waiting for your refund, just out of interest, if you don't mind me asking? Did they refund you straight away or were you waiting a week as well? Because this is exactly the concern about taking money for a product that you don't have. Because they could have hundreds of thousands of pounds banked from this. And if they can't fulfill it, they're going to have to refund all of this. Are they keeping that money ring-fenced? Or is that going into the slush pot?
I don't know. Someone ran the numbers.
5 days.
Someone ran the numbers on OC UK based off of the numbers they released for the pre-orders they had for the 2080 Ti. And someone calculated OC UK as transacting something like £1.5 million in pre-orders that they don't have. That they didn't have stock for.
Yeah. See, what are they doing now? They're cashing in on the interest for that. So even if they have to refund all of them, they keep the interest. I don't know. Whatever the answer to this mystery is, it sounds sketchy and the optics aren't good. And I know that's a really tired phrase. The optics aren't good, but the optics aren't good.
Yeah, and it's just a case of, it's just so annoying because I want to like OC UK by the fact that they're also actually focused on overclocking.
Yeah,
they're focused on extreme overclocking as well.
I agree with that. I want to like them as well.
And I want to like them because of that. Because as far as I'm aware, they're the only UK store type thing that has actual hardcore...
by gamers, for gamers, so to speak.
Well, and also actual hardcore overclocking stuff as a part of their company. So... it just annoys me.
Yeah. Going to spin off onto another question that popped up a bit further up the chat. Where was it? Let me see. White Everman says, I got £1,350 for a gaming PC, AMD or Pentium plus which GPU. So £1,350, you should be able to build something fairly tasty with that. I'd be looking at something like a Ryzen 3700X, or probably a Ryzen 3700X or a 3800X. And then I would wait for the GPUs, because with that budget, you should be able to look for a fairly tasty GPU from some of these next-gen ones that we've been talking about, like a 30 series or the new AMD ones. So I would kind of sit tight and wait to see which of those is actually available to purchase. However, one thing I would also say is start buying parts as and when you can.
Yeah.
See them, if you see a 3700X or 3800X at a good price and you see a good motherboard, buy them now. Buy the case you want as soon as you can. Buy the power supply you want as soon as it's available. Start buying parts so you can start building that up. Normally, I think we talked about this last week, but normally I always say wait until you've got your money and then buy it all at the same time. Right now, buy individual parts as and when you can get them, because stuff is just coming in and out of stock at random. So if you spot something at a good price, buy it there and then, build it up over time, and then the graphics card, that's going to be the last piece of your puzzle. Pick up one of the new generation ones, the best you can afford with what you've got left from your budget, as soon as it's actually available on the shelf.
Yeah, basically that. I mean, I would possibly consider also building around an i5-10600K as well, depending on how interested you are in CPU overclocking as well.
Yeah.
Because if you like the idea of CPU overclocking, a 10600K is going to be more fun than any Ryzen.
Yeah, that's true.
Because there are more twiddly bits to overclock.
Yeah.
And there's more to gain from overclocking. So, I would.
The 10600K is a really strong gaming CPU right now as well, isn't it?
Yeah,
so
exactly.
Yeah, that's fair.
So I would consider that if you're interested in overclocking CPUs or willing to overclock your CPU.
Yeah.
So I would aim for that. I would aim around that point.
Yeah. Is Maplin still alive in any other country? I thought Maplin was dead. People are saying Maplins are silly expensive and stuff. I thought Maplins were long gone. I know their stores are all closed down, but yeah.
And as far as I'm aware, they are completely dead in the UK.
They're Digital First Retail Limited. With Google that.
Yeah, as far as I'm aware, Maplin is completely dead in the UK. Some part of it got bought out as part of the liquidation stuff to do stuff. So yeah.
They're still hitting the top of YouTube. Their website is loading. They've got something.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Sorry, as in like the brand name got bought out for something or other. So I'm not certain, but yes. I always found them.
Oh yeah. They still got a storefront. They're selling something.
Yeah, obviously they've
Shadow their former self, but they're obviously still
expensive.
They're pushing boxes
Sadly.
though, apparently. Yeah.
But yeah, hopefully without physical stores, they can have a lower price, more in line with scan and overclockers and things like that. CCL. So yeah. So it's we'll see. I would not get the 10100, the i3 10100, just because it's only 4 cores, 4 threads.
That's kind of on the low side these days.
And that's kind of low.
Yeah.
Because is the R3 3100X 4 cores, 8 threads? Or is it 4 cores, 4 threads? Good lord, 4 cores, 4 threads. Holy crap.
Give me specs.
There you go.
It is 4 cores. Fuck, I'm gonna. It's 8 threads.
Yeah.
4 cores, 8 threads.
So the 3100 will be same price, give or take 5 currency, and it will have more cores and fractionally better.
Apparently the 10100 is 4 core 8 thread as well.
Is it?
100.
Oh, they actually added the correct type of threading to i3s now. Oh, that's good.
I'm going to verify that as well.
Oh, if
it is 8 threads. Yep,
if
correct.
that is the case, then that is less
viable.
horrific than I thought. Yes,
Max Turbo 4.3.
I would say that probably, again, I don't know if this is still the case, that you can only get Z490 motherboards. If that's still the case, that's going to be a £200 motherboard with a £100 CPU.
I think that's where you're going to get.
You'd rather. I would say you'd be better off getting an A520 motherboard for £60.
Yeah.
And sticking a 3100X in it.
Yeah, that is going to be your problem. I think the 10100 would actually offer you more performance because it's got the same core and thread count, but much better clocks. However, you're going to lose all the money you've saved buying a budget CPU on a Z490 motherboard for it. Whereas if you go with the AMD, it's not quite as fast, but you'll actually save a huge amount of money because you can bung it in a cheap motherboard.
Yeah, and also you won't have to separately buy a cooler.
Yeah, and it comes with a cooler. Does the 10100 not come with a cooler? That's rude.
Oh, it's an Intel CPU. They've not come with coolers for 2 generations?
Oh,
3
fair
generations?
Enough. Oh, well, yeah, there you go then. Yeah.
Well, at least as far as I'm aware.
Because that's the thing. You're going to lose another 20 quid minimum for a CPU cooler if you just buy a bog standard cooler for it.
Yeah.
And
absolutely.
again, 20 quid doesn't sound like much, but when you're in the budget, you've spent another, even if you buy a cheap Z490 motherboard, you're spending another £40 on the motherboard, say, 20 quid on the cooler, that's £60 already. It's adding up, man. You know. And
that's half the price of a CPU.
Yeah, that exactly.
Yeah.
Let's see. Ever find old computers with the earlier Q8000 cores? What's that, Intel Quad?
Yeah, Core 2 Quads.
They do pop up now and then. I think I've got one in the shop actually. I've got an old. I think I've got an old Dell with a Core 2 Quad in it. So yeah, they float around and DDR2, but I don't care about them. They go into the recycling pile, quite frankly.
Yeah.
I have no interest in them because it's too old.
Even the first gen i7s, i3, i5, i7 is gonna be 9 years old.
Mm-hmm.
An i3 from 10th gen is going to be faster than an i7 from 1st gen. So...
Question whether I'd take on the risk of a refurb or open motherboard box. Yeah, as I say, certainly speaking from Amazon, I have bought open box stuff from Amazon and there's been nothing wrong with it. And again, because it's Amazon, if there is a problem with it, you just say, money back please, and you get your money back.
Yeah.
So Amazon, I would run the risk. I've also bought secondhand motherboards from eBay, and I've also not had a problem with it. Although obviously eBay is going to be higher risk. If you want to roll the dice on that, you can. However, I've bought secondhand eBays from motherboard. Well, my X470 Tai Chi was an eBay motherboard, and that's in my computer at home, running just fine. So yeah, Darren Gilholm, thanks for the 2 quid, my dude. Much appreciated. So yeah,
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. 10100 turbos to 4.3 without overclocking and runs cooler doing it. Yeah, that's where it's going to run faster. However, as I say, I fear the cost of the i3. I think there's going to be hidden costs with buying that i3 in terms of the cooler and the additional cost of the motherboard. I could be wrong. You might be able to find yourself a really cheap ass motherboard and you may be able to work it all out.
Yeah.
If you can work it out, like if prices are identical, if the price between the Ryzen 3 and the i3 is identical, get the i3. However, I think that by the time you've actually totaled it all up, the bottom line price on the i3 is going to be too much higher to make the performance difference worthwhile.
Yeah, I think the total build cost will be higher.
And the amount that you'd end up spending extra, you could have just bought a better Ryzen in the first place. So yeah. You do still get a basic Intel cooler with the lower end chips. I'm going to check it on Amazon because, as I say, as we're not authority. Sometimes we do talk out of our asses. So let's check it.
Yeah, absolutely.
i3 10100. Let me see. Box. Does it come with a cooler? Does it come with a cooler?
I mean, the box looks big enough, but
I was going to say the box looks big enough, but that doesn't mean anything. So.
Yeah, absolutely.
Question yes, it comes with a stock Intel cooler. You're wrong.
Fair enough.
Yeah, the i3 does come with a cooler. Yep.
Good. Which still has the stupid push pin plastic thingies that doesn't bloody mount.
What the fuck is the beard? Lots of people ask me what's with the beard. I like my beard. I'm keeping it. You get a beard if you're brave enough. Ha!
Yeah. Yes.
57.
Well, yes, I indeed have a 2700X. I don't know what ROG is, unless it's Republic of Gamer, and I have no Republic of Gamer gear, so I'm not sure.
I see it on your ROG. Yeah, no.
Yes, I have.
Are you still a Gigabyte boy?
Yes, I have a Gigabyte motherboard. The
one of their good ones.
X470 gaming Wi-Fi 7 Ultra Edition, something or other. So yes, but if you're talking about Precision Overdrive, PBO, then I think all I have done is changed one of the power limits to 175 watts. And that's now boosting to about 4.2995, basically. So yeah. Is doing that, which is fine, but it's kind of a little bit loud at that, so when I'm not gaming, I will actually drop it down to be 60 watts only. And then it will...
Is that with your water cooling setup?
Yeah.
Huh.
It will then basically run flat out with the fans turned off. Basically. So yeah, so it's absolutely fine. And then I've got a 5700 XT 50th anniversary edition. With
which has
a water
no
block.
driver problems.
Of course it doesn't. There are no AMD driver problems. Which has a full coverage custom water block on it, and the CPU's under a custom block as well, all EK. And there is a video on the YouTube channel.
There is, yeah.
About both. Yeah, we did it in one go, didn't we?
Yeah.
Yeah, about water cooling the entire computer in one go.
Yeah,
My
super
next
graphics
computer is not going to be water cooled. Only because I know there aren't going to be full coverage blocks available at the time of purchase, so I will do it later.
Have you still got your Noctua?
Yes.
Are you going to stick that on your new chip?
No, I'm going to go Sub-Zero and see what happens with that.
Oh yeah. Should we mention that? Should we tease it?
We just did.
Yeah, I
there
guess.
You go. That's a teaser. You have been teased.
Yeah.
And that's a microphone. I just looked into the microphone to do an at-camera look. Oh dear. Hello, this is a camera. You have been teased.
He's buying a new 5,000... What are you getting? 5700X or a 5800X?
5950.
5950. You going top?
I will start with a 5950. If I don't get one, I'll get a 58, whatever. If I don't get a 58, I'll get a 57.
He's going to buy the best 5000 he can, and we have a freezer.
Whatever is in stock for delivery the fastest. I might end up with two CPUs turning up at the same time. We'll see.
Just send the other one back, sure, why the hell not? But yeah, it's going to be good.
So yeah, so that, and then it will be paired up with a 6800 XT, probably, unless the benchmarks come back as saying it's actually complete trash, and then it will probably get marked up with a 3800.
Are you buying the O11D for it as well? What are your thoughts on that?
I don't know. I don't know.
We built in a Lianli O11D XL last week, and it was really nice.
But I'm also like, it's £200 for a case.
Yeah.
When I could just not have a case. Kind of thing. If that makes sense in the scale of things. And I've got...
Oh, plus if we're using the chiller, the case is just not going to be practical. You're going to have to go open bench if we use chiller.
Right. But that... Or put it in the Corsair Carbide Air 540, because the back of the motherboard is just a hole.
Yeah.
So you can just easily pass stuff through there and so on. So yeah, so it's a case of I might
confirmed.
swap back into that one.
Yeah. It depends
especially if there's not water cooling. So.
Yeah. It depends if you end up dailying the chiller, because I'm sure we'll make that work.
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
Sub-Zero isn't practical for daily. I don't think we're gonna.
Yeah.
I think we'll end up with a really interesting video.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I don't think it's something you're going to be able to daily.
I don't know. Only because I can just leave it turned on all of the time. Literally all of the time. So condensation will be a problem twice a year. If that makes sense, because it will be frozen water on the computer.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And when it's frozen, I don't care.
Yeah, it's not a problem until it thaws out.
And then I turn off the chiller and I just paper towel the crap out of everything. And then it melts. And then there's no condensation, there's no water. And then next time I need to do stuff, I can just turn it back on and it freezes. So yeah. I'm not concerned, only because it can be on all of the time.
Yeah.
Literally 24/7. There is no concern. The only thing that will turn it off will be power cuts. And when it reboots for Windows updates, which will take a few seconds and won't be enough for it to, thaw. That's the word. Thaw.
Yeah.
So I'm not particularly concerned on that front. My i7 4750K, whatever one you purchased from me, and that motherboard.
That's in there.
Yes.
Carry on.
Is that actually that motherboard?
Not that motherboard, but that CPU.
Oh, okay. Fine. I was going to say yes, because that motherboard was frozen, thawed, frozen, thawed, frozen, thawed.
Yeah.
And it was absolutely fine.
Yeah.
So I think it's a case of...
Water damage is fine as long as you actually dry it out before it corrodes everything.
Well, yeah, water on it is fine as long as you dry it before it corrodes, kind of thing. So, yeah, I am willing to run the risk because I feel like it's going to be 2 years before there's a problem, by which time I will want to replace it anyway.
Yeah, fair enough.
So it's kind of a case of I want to replace it so I can replace it with something sensible. So, yeah.
Right.
And it's a fun project, ultimately.
I think it's time for us to start wrapping up because it's 5:50.
Sure,
Yeah,
absolutely.
Okay. I'm going to quickly just zap a couple of more things that are in the past page of chat. The big diabetes. Do you guys think the supply will suck for the Ryzen 5000 RDNA 2? No idea. Basically, no idea. I mean, obviously, AMD will have seen that happen and been like, we don't want that to happen to us.
Yeah.
Because this isn't like a Nintendo situation where they're doing it on purpose to generate false demand. Nvidia are sitting there going, this sucks, no one can buy our cards. You know, Nvidia are tearing their hair out. They want this problem fixed. They don't want to be in this situation. They are in a horrifying situation at the moment. So AMD will be looking at that going, we don't want this to happen. However, whether or not they can actually mitigate it or not is another question entirely.
Yeah.
Because the problem is because the 30 series flashed out of stock, it means that all the scalpers and stuff, they're going to have their eyes on the new AMD cards as well.
Absolutely.
So I'm going to put down my hypothetical money and say I think there will be stock problems.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think there will be stock problems.
I am certain that there will be stock problems. I don't think they'll be as bad.
Yeah.
However, I'm certain there will be stock problems. And you were saying about the Nvidia stuff. Apparently, there is a rumour from DigiTimes that Nvidia might shift some or all of its production from Samsung 8nm to TSMC 7nm for 2021.
Weren't they going to do that anyway? Or were they just...
No, I don't know. I haven't heard that before today.
Yeah.
But interesting that is even something that is apparently being rumoured that might happen. So... Interesting. Maybe that somewhat infers that Nvidia thinks there is a supply volume issue from Samsung's fabs.
Yeah, that's true.
Which will be interesting because Samsung is the second largest
fab in the world.
Largest chip producer in the world.
Yeah.
Second to Intel.
Although obviously the vast majority of that is going to be memory. And I don't know. I don't know how complicated it is to retool a fab to do something other than memory. If you see what I mean.
Yeah.
I don't know enough about lithography to know if you can just I don't know how much hassle it is for them to retool the factory to start making a GPU instead of memory chips.
Probably reasonably, because as far as I'm aware, all of the DDR4 is made on 14nm.
Okay, yeah.
So they would have to be going onto a complete new process for 8nm, which would require new extreme ultraviolet machines, which they physically don't have because they've physically not been made. So,
fair.
Yeah, absolutely.
Very well. Right, I think we're done. I think I've hit everything that I wanted to do.
Absolutely.
No, I'm gonna call it a day.
Fantastic.
Last short question. Are you taking that one, or end?
No.
Yep.
We're good.
Cool. All right then. Right. That's it. X470 will run 5000. However, you'll probably find that the B550 motherboards are more interesting and about the same price. Consider that. Anyway, we're done. We're tying up. Otherwise, we'll be here all night because we could talk. We could keep this going for ages, but we've got to keep them short.
Absolutely.
Thank you, everyone, for tuning in.
Absolutely.
Thank you for coming. Thank you to all the super chats that we've had tonight, and for everyone for showing up. We really appreciate it. It's been another great show. We will be back next Saturday at the same place at the same time. Loosely. And I think that's it. Yeah, thanks for tuning in, everyone.
And if you want to continue the conversation, join the Discord.
Yep.
If you want to support Ant in a different fashion, there is a Patreon. And there's a YouTube channel that you're currently watching this on, which you can subscribe to.
Yep, we have a Patreon. There is a Discord. Teltac, could you spam the Discord invite link a couple of times for me, please? There he goes. Thank you very much.
Yeah, absolutely.
Join the Discord if you want to carry on the conversation. We do have a Patreon that you can see on any of my recent videos. Check the description for links to my Patreon as well. It's just a tip jar at the moment. However, they will be seeing the development of the big things that I've got coming up within the next 2 months.
Absolutely. It will be good. It will be very good. Mm-hmm. And also, hopefully, at some point, we might get YouTube channel memberships going.
Yes, as soon as I get round to it, I will get YouTube channel memberships going. I have to make an intro video and a trailer video for why you should do it. I can't just turn it on. You have to do all the things, and it takes time. But I will get that sorted as well. Thank you very much.
Absolutely.
I'm going to go. We're going to hit stop streaming now. So
absolutely.
Thank you for tuning in. Bye.
Ciao. See you on Discord.
See you on Discord. Look at him
Toodles.
saying all the things.